Now, our next guest is from Aurora Innovation, and we will get to hear about their journey from Uppsala to Europe. Warm welcome, Cecilia Arthuis, from Chief Product Officer and Deputy CEO.
Thank you, Linus.
We have water here if you would like
Now
some.
let's see, is this one turned on?
Yes,
Good.
that is on.
Good.
So you have a little presentation that you would like to share, so I'm going to put that on the computer so that becomes live. And then I will let you stand here.
Okay,
so
thank
you.
you.
Are in the camera.
So hi, as Linus said, I don't have a voice. Now that is better. Cecilia Arthuis from Aurora Innovation. And I will start by telling our little story. It actually started quite a few years ago, back in the early 50s, when our founder, Carl Lejonhufvud, was a small boy up in the north of Sweden. And he was running errands to people sitting in the queuing up for the doctor's appointment. And small as he was amazed by all this time that was wasted. People are sitting there doing nothing. This was a thought that followed him also into when he grew up, and it remained with him when he himself was sitting in telephone queues. And the result was actually that Carl, together with a friend, came up with an invention, the time-scheduled callback system. You've all met it when you call, for example, your primary care center, and they tell you, we will call you back at 10:25 this morning. And amazingly enough, they do. So this really simple invention was actually the basis for the digital communication platform that is today Aurora Teleq, which is the key product of Aurora Innovation. So Aurora today then, we have more than 20 years of market experience, and actually more than 70% of the people in Sweden have met or have had opportunity to meet Aurora Teleq when calling in to healthcare services. We have more than 9,000 units out in Sweden and other countries in Europe, and more tens of thousands of professionals within healthcare that actually work with this product as a communication platform. We have our head office here in Uppsala, where we also have our development. We have local offices in Finland, Holland, and Spain. And we also have active customers in Portugal, Estonia, and the UK. So how did we then turn this quite simple solution to global problem into international business? Well, back in 2006, Teleq was only sold to Swedish regions, and it was quite a small business. Today, this is approximately 150 million SEK business per year, and 45% of it is happening outside of Sweden. Our first international contract was in 2007. That was one contract in Finland. And at that time, that was quite a big part of Aurora's business. And we got quite, encouraged. So we started looking for more international business. And the truth is that we looked in several countries. We were in the Netherlands, we were in the UK, we were in Switzerland, we were in Norway, we were in France, we were in Italy, we were a bit all over the place. But the truth is that despite all these efforts, and despite this fact that we actually got very positive response to the pilots we were running, the users were extremely happy. They found the product extremely helpful. But still, we didn't grow our business. We actually did shrink our international business. We more or less kept this one business in Finland going on, and it was shrinking over time. So what we did then was to think a bit about what is happening here, and we realized that we are probably spreading too thin. We need to focus. And establishing, now I am actually a bit lost on which slide I am on, but establishing a few local offices out on certain selected markets and really growing this from just one representative, putting real focus, putting more resources, that made us finally get a business taking off. So last year, we had a turnover of 135 million SEK, and we keep growing, and the majority of our growth now is outside of Sweden. So what have we learned from this business? Well, maybe our learnings are a little bit different from what Mats just told us, because we have a product that actually fits into an ecosystem, into a larger environment. It's not that much of a niche. So for us, maybe 3 key learnings have been: the first is we should have been clearer on what we wanted with our international expansion. I think Aurora jumped into this just because it was an opportunity, but we were not really mature. We didn't really have our base business in order. And it was also that the whole company wasn't really on board. This was a wish coming very much from our owners and from our board. Management team maybe wasn't as on board as it should have been, and the whole company definitely wasn't. Because going international definitely takes a lot of focus, and it takes a lot of resources that you need to be prepared to take from your other and ongoing business. The other learning then is that never ever assume that what works on one market automatically works on another market. There are so many differences despite this basic common need, and the thought that certain markets are very similar. It goes everything, of course, from things as language, that is obvious, but there is also very much around how is your product used. Cultural, even small cultural differences are making a very big difference in the usage of a product. For example, in Sweden here now, when we talked about this being called back instead of waiting in a queue, in other markets, such as down in Iberia, for example, we see that there's no trust really that this will happen. There are cultural thoughts that make people not wanting to be called back, because there they might feel that they're actually losing control of the situation. We have different issues, of course, as in how is healthcare organized. If in Sweden we have regions making large procurements, in many other countries, healthcare is organized in small individual doctors' cabinets that actually handle communication then with the patients in a very different way. And even, as I said, if you have end users that are loving your solution, who is the one who actually finances this? Who takes the decisions? Who influences the decisions? Where does the money come from? That has been a great learning for us in many countries. And then regulations, of course, when we are in anything that's health tech or healthcare, when we're talking cloud solutions and cyberspace, the regulations are different in different countries. And you might actually believe you have a business, then we turned out, I know that in the UK we had a good business going on, turned out we needed to be on a short list and get approval for our cybersecurity, etc. And then it didn't work out. So all the time, always think about that there are so many differences also between very similar countries. Finally, of course, secure a strong local presence. Aurora has all the time been early with having representatives, but really getting into a market, having sales staff who understand the market, who builds the relationships, who can build up, not only find a pilot, but really build a business, has turned out for us to be a real key. It could be our own staff, or it could be going with partners that have a very strong local presence, but a deep understanding and relationship on the market has been our key to success. So very briefly, that was our story. We've gone out to Europe, and I think maybe one of the real key learnings is be perseverant. It takes time. You can be lucky, of course, it can take off very rapidly, but I think for most companies, building up international business takes many years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. So if you move there and you have your camera there. Thank you for sharing your about Aurora Innovation's journey and how you have persevered through periods where it's been tougher. I was looking at your summary list, and a lot of it resonates with my experience, and I think it's very interesting to hear about your journey. And you mentioned one thing, that the whole company is committed, and how have you worked to change that and to get that commitment and motivation from the company?
Okay, I think that to start with, we putting this into our real strategies, what we measure in our goals, etc., and we keep banging this into the whole company feelings, right? We've also been very clear on what do we not prioritize then, because it's very often that we just, as I said, put this on top of everything else, and so we are clear on where do we not go then. And then I think it's important also that in the everyday work that you actually involve people, also not obviously working with a certain market. We have development, product management, participating in customer meetings on our different countries, etc., so that everybody really sort of feels what it means.
And looking ahead of what are your plans and goals for Aurora Innovation?
I think our plans and our goals are definitely now that we have a foothold in several countries in Europe, now we are continuing to expand. We realize we are maybe too small company to build strong footholds and build local companies at the pace we want to expand. So we're instead building really strong relationships with different partners, very much in the telecom service providers that already have a strong local presence and a good relationship out on important markets that we want to address. We are focusing on Europe as it looks right now, but who knows what the future beyond that will look like.
And you mentioned that it's not the same in every market. You might come in with an idea of how it looks, but then it turns out to be different. How have you worked to find out those differences and how to adapt to them?
I think we have, as we heard a lot today about it all this day, it was Business Sweden, then Mats referred to Business Sweden. We have also used the services of Business Sweden, which was, they of course can't give all the answers, but they can find and definitely recommend which markets to focus on, where we could have a good impact. Holland, that is today our fastest growing market outside Sweden, then was a market that was really recommended by Business Sweden to us instead, as we did. They also actually recommended Finland, where we have our other major export market. So we have relied on their recommendations, built our resources ourselves, and then, of course, as I said, what I already mentioned, now then going on other markets, using partners that are
that have the connections,
that have the
know-how
connections, that understand the market also that we want to address out there.
And I know you're working with local partners, and during the pandemic we saw that a lot of sales decisions also in B2B became digital, and it was much more important to be present there, to be part of the decision processes. Has that affected you and in your business as well?
Absolutely, no doubt. Already to sort of find leads, the way you do that has become much more digital, using different digital channels, including LinkedIn, for example. So, and that has become a much more important way for us to identify leads. But also then when you start building a relationship with customers, of course, everything that is demonstrations, training, let's say user meetings, etc., can be held online now that the sort of use of the online communication has become so much mature and accepted on virtual markets. And that, of course, is efficient for us and customers. It has also made it possible for our local offices to make use of the competence and resources that we have here in the head offices in a much better way.
Thank you very much. And it's interesting with these digital opportunities. I've heard companies that I talk with as well, let's say that we wouldn't have been able to establish on so many new markets with so many new partners in such a short time if it wasn't for the pandemic, because the partners were open to digital meetings and they would be able to travel to those markets to screen them. So there's lots of opportunities in there, and thank you very much for sharing about how you work at Aurora Innovation and how you can help healthcare to embrace digital solutions.
Thank you, Linus.